Chains rattle broken, now we rise. Flag in my hand, stars burn the skies. Truth ain't dead, though the liars try. They scream loud, but the words all die. Guys watching hands, praise to the throne. Freedom ain't free, blood built this home. Continue freedom, keep it alive. Red, white, blue, we bleed to survive. God bless the brave who fight and strive. Continue freedom, keep it alive. Land of the free, ain't bending the knee. Truth in my veins, it's all I see. Patriots roar, no fear in the fight. Continue freedom, stand in the light.
All right, I see it. We got Alabama in the house, KC. Welcome back, guys. All right, so if you're, wow, Alabama, I was going to bring this up. So for everybody that's out there that is getting ready for this storm, I don't know what Alabama's getting down there, KC, but up here in Tennessee, we're looking at ice. So I'm going to recommend that everybody go and check this out. This guy has been doing some of the best weather reporting on this massive storm that's coming through. So I just wanted to give a shout out. If you're not watching this channel, you need to. It's like watching the Weather Channel, only good. It's the best way I can think of it. So go check that guy out, Ryan Hall, y'all. Amazing channel. And he should. He's got 3 million subs. So we got a lot to talk about tonight as we're getting ready for a winter storm. We got other stuff that's happening. And before I get into the Candace Owens stuff, which I promise I will here in a moment, you've seen me talk about this in several of my recent episodes, but this guy finally got arrested. So did the lady. I didn't pull up a clip for that one. But William Kelly, who's the guy that was obviously, I guess, the most visible on social media for wrecking the church or raiding the church with Don Lemon, he got arrested. And there you go. Pam Bondi, she posted it on X. Let me pull that X post up here. Here we go. She said, and they've also come out and again, like I said, the lady who was with him, who was kind of spearheading the whole thing, she was also arrested. But Pam Bondi said, William Kelly is now in custody. Our nation was settled and founded by people fleeing religious persecution. Religious freedom is the background of this country. We will protect our pastors. We will protect our churches. We will protect Americans of faith. Praise the Lord. Hallelujah. That's a good thing. Now, Don Lemon, as far as that goes, is so far the magistrate who is supposed to have something to do with this, who's supposed to be signing off on this, he declines to sign the complaint against Don Lemon. So we'll see how that turns out. But this is about justice, I guess you could say. Hey, Tracy, welcome to the comments. Good to see you. We're law and order is what we were calling for with Donald Trump and putting an end to this wild leftist violence that we've been facing for, since Donald Trump came down the escalator. That's when it, for lack of a better term, escalated, and that's what it got worse and worse. And now they feel like they can just run roughshod over the American people. The DOJ says not so fast. You do this kind of nonsense, and you're going to go to jail. Now we can anticipate the leftist rhetoric, right? We know the leftist rhetoric is going to be that this is violating freedom of speech, and it's doing this and it's doing that. Incorrect. They were on private property. They were asked to leave. They did not leave. They had to shut down the church service. That has a cooling effect on churches. And if nothing had happened, this would continue, on in perpetuity. Now, will it still continue? Will more people be emboldened because that guy with the beard, this dude that I was just showing you, he became famous on the left, right? The left loved the guy. And are more people going to want to be copycats? Quite possible. Quite possible. So let's go ahead and talk about the headline for today, and that is Candace Owens. She got served. she got a cease and desist letter. I'm going to play some clips from her, but I'm also going to play clips that you guys are probably familiar with. But this guy, Wolves in Finance. Well, here I'll show you his face. He was the first one, allegedly the first one, that got slammed by this, that has, he played the victim card very well, but the first one that got served because of the videos he was making. We're going to go through his video, and really it's for us to kind of build a strong argument. Like when people say, oh, but didn't you see what, wolf of what did I say it was? Wolf of finance, wolves in finance. Didn't you see what he said about it? Did you hear what Candace Owens said about this, that, and the third? No, this is easily dissected point by point, and that's what we're going to do. So let's go ahead and get into it. Here we go. Candace is frustrated. Let me pull up the cease and desist letter first. I've got some clips from that. So here we go. I highlighted the part that you really need to look at. There's some part you can feel free to pause this or, after the fact, take a screenshot of it, whatever, so that you can read all the way through it. But they're writing to her, and I did not know this until this letter was made public, that she had an ongoing contractual obligation not to make any disparaging, false, misleading, or otherwise defamatory comments about TPUSA and or its employees, agents, directors, officers, affiliates, programs, or services. So this is an agreement she had signed. This is a non-disparagement agreement she signed when she left back in December of 2025, and it was valid for 12 months. So she was not allowed to disparage them for 12 months. And, look, she was still under contract with them, apparently, which I didn't even know that she was still under contract. And she has been disparaging them nonstop ever since Charlie Kirk's assassination. So there's one violation. But she's making the case that Candace is making is, it's all about the monetary claims, which is kind of dovetails us into the wolves and finance guy, which we're going to talk about. But that's not what it is. If you read through this, I'll read a couple of points here, and I didn't highlight them in here. She published a list of lies. She published a list of lies that she attributed to TPUSA. And she has stated that there's definitely financial impropriety at the company. She claimed to know there are people at TPUSA who are not good people, and which that's not in and of itself, not a thing, right? That's not you can say, I know there's bad people there. Well, okay, you could say that if it's disparaging, according to her contract that she signs, if that is disparaging specific people, which she has done, she's done it to Colvett, she's done it to oh gosh, I'm drawing a blank, but you know who I'm talking about. She's been disparaging individuals. She suggested that TPUSA and TPUSA Faith have been infiltrated by military operatives, and they went on to talk about Fort Huachuca. They listed more than just the financials, right? So that's her lying to her audience. And when I first saw it, I thought, okay, she obviously thinks her audience is stupid. She has zero respect for her audience because they could very easily find these documents online, read them, and say, well, no, Candace, that's not all that you were talking about. Maybe you're wrong. But a lot of them don't do that. But she just assumes, nobody's going to do that. Nobody's going to. So here we go. Let's look at her response, and then we're going to play a mashup from Nathan Livingstone, who, all my great folks that keep coming back here, you know who Nathan Livingstone is, Milk Bar TV. But if you're new, by the way, hit the subscribe button, like button, notification bell, all those important buttons. But go check him out on X. I'll show you his account here in a minute. Let's go ahead and listen to this.
Turning Point USA, a cease and desist. Is that what we're doing? Is this the chapter that we are on? We're turning the chapter here to lawfare? This is what's left? You want us to believe this is Charlie's legacy? In the future, Turning Point USA is going to be thought of as the girl that peaked in high school, Free market capitalism, open debate, prove me wrong. Now it's suddenly shut up and serve the new queen. That's what they want, right? So just to recap, our cultural cardinal rule number 1 is that it's gay to send a legal letter. It's very gay. You shouldn't do it, especially if you can just pick up the phone and call someone. People are someone. The vibe that sending out legal letter gives the internet in this day and age, it's changed. The vibes are changing. Is my daddy is so rich, he can buy the world.
She's such a spoiled brat, by the way. I'm sorry. There's no other term. She acts like a spoiled brat. But this is, she's now turning her ire directly towards Erica Kirk. Her vengeance is focused strictly on Erica Kirk because, she said in here that the deposed or the deposed leader and heavy as the crown. Oh gosh, I just forgot the quote. Heavy as the crown on after the deposed leader of who takes charge after the deposed leader. I forget the quote, but let's play a little mashup here. This is again Nathan Livingstone. Let me pull up his account so you guys can see it because it's definitely worth the follow. Here he is up here, Milk Bar TV, right at the top. Find it on X. Go watch the guy.
Desist. Naturally, to give them credit, we've had a contract to speak going back to 2019, 2020, and there is standard NDA agreements. You're not going to disparage me. You're not going to defame me. I believe that people within that company betrayed Charlie. I'm putting the fire here right at the feet of Turning Point because I am disgusted. I'm going to wait for the financial report to come out. And I got question marks about a couple of people over at Turning Point USA. I think it's about to all get exposed. I think it was a bad idea to kill Charlie Kirk. What if what you're doing destroys Turning Point USA? If the truth is capable of destroying your company, then does your company deserve to exist? The way to honor him is to give money. I don't know. There's just something really sick and demonic about the entire thing. I want war with all of you. We're not just going to keep on going and jump into a succession plan. Our plan was to assassinate Charlie Kirk, who had at long last faltered on the pro-Israel cause, and then to stage a hostile takeover of his brand and of his legacy. Turning Point USA, very organization that just had its leader assassinated. Obviously, for this to have been pulled off, there had to have been people at Turning Point that were complicit in having this happen. They are, broadly speaking, making the allegation here that my investigation into who killed Charlie Kirk is naturally disparaging. When I tweeted that it was a God-forsaken company and people should not give money to it. And I have to own that. That's aggressive. That is actually aggressive in the retrospect.
Turns out you can't say all that stuff. You can't. Defamation, asking questions, this is where it gets muddy because just like the leftist, here's a great example. Just like the leftist who walked into the church.
This Turning Point USA, a seat.
Sorry, that just auto played there. Just like the leftist who popped into the church and said, "This is my First Amendment right. I can be here, my freedom of assembly," and then backed up by Don Lemon. She's doing the same version of that when it comes to defamation, when it comes to defaming an entire organization, defaming individuals to include Erica Kirk and her staff, the leadership at TPUSA. And they do it under the auspice of, "Oh, well, I'm just asking questions and it's a First Amendment right and I'm allowed to ask questions." You're not allowed to insinuate or claim guilt on the part of someone who is not guilty, has not been proven guilty, and to do so without any evidence. And that's her whole shtick. That's what her whole show is based on, making things up, dreams and time travel and the bee cults and all this nonsense. And in the process, defaming people. People listen to it because it's exciting. Again, she went from the true crime, which we talked about in past shows. We've talked about the format that she uses, which is a purely true crime format. And then she goes on to sci-fi and to build that story. Got to keep that story interesting. This is how she functions. This is how she operates. So one of the first guy, as I said, well, let me back up and say, they continued in this letter, which I don't think I pointed out in here, that they were, let me make sure I pull it up here, the right one. So, let's see, let me try the Turning Point USA. They were talking about, I believe it was in this clip, where they were talking about the damage she has caused and continues to cause, and we don't have an estimate on how much that is. So we're, basically they're saying you're racking up a payment to us. You're racking up the lawsuit. The lawsuit is building so long as you continue to do this. And they're taking notes. They know they have a case. Right? They know they have a case for this. They wouldn't have done it otherwise. And she has the money to fight it. Let's be honest. She has the money to fight it because her husband is worth $250 million. She can shell out, $1 million or $2 million for a lawsuit, and there you go. Now, the little guys, we'll say the little guys, or at least that's how they portray themselves, they're poo-poo faced about this because, it's the big fish going after the little fish is the way they see it. But we have to consider any type of YouTube channel, any type of media outlet. It's not just the people that are watching your video, but the the reach of that YouTube channel extends beyond the commentator and into the social media feeds of other people. So it's, I mean, think of it like a monstrous pyramid scheme. That's kind of how it works, although it's not nefarious. It's just people who are sharing ideas. And this guy who claims in this video to be a small channel is a guy that has almost 400,000 subscribers. He's got 30 million views. In fact, let me pull it up. That's why I pulled this up. This is off of view stats. You can go and find channels and see how many views they've got over the past year, months, whatever, estimated revenue and all of these things. The guy's got almost 30 million views, and he's got 384,000 subscribers. He's not what I would consider a little guy. He's a little guy compared to TPUSA. He's a little guy compared to Candace Owens, but that doesn't make him any less responsible for those 30 million people who have watched his videos, or the million or however many it was that watched the video of him making ridiculous claims against TPUSA. So let's listen to this. I'm going to play it on fast speed because I don't like to, I'll be honest, he's kind of boring to listen to, but
This week,
I'll stop along the way.
Titled Demand to Cease and Desist Defamatory Comments. This is the first step when someone sues you for defamation. I know there are a lot of people out there making videos about Turning Point, so you should pay attention to this. They have started sending out cease and desist letters, and for some reason, they've decided to start with me. Apparently, they cannot handle the criticism from my teeny tiny YouTube channel. This letter is showing the world the type of organization Turning Point has become under Erica Kirk. They want to send legal letters to small YouTube creators. So we're going to go through this letter. And by the way, if any of you know a good lawyer in Arizona that handles defamation cases, have them send me an email through my website because I'm looking for a lawyer.
Yeah.
It's in the letter. Turning Point entities are not looking for litigation. Rather, their interest is in the truth and making sure the public record is accurate. So they are claiming they do not want to sue me. But I view this letter as a threat to sue, and I think any reasonable business person would do the same.
Okay, I have to stop here because I've actually been involved in this sort of stuff, not for defamation or anything like that, but when it comes to getting someone to take an action, if they are infringing on a right or infringing on your property or whatever, one of the first things that you do is you send a cease and desist letter. It's sent certified mail so that you can verify that it was received, and you say, I don't want to sue you, but here's the situation, right? And this is on the advice of counsel. This is generally what they do. Before we proceed any further, you can't just out of nowhere, or I guess you can, but it's not it's not the, I guess, appropriate way to handle it to say, well, I'm just going to come out and just throw a lawsuit at you. No, when you are trying to be a legitimate organization, when you're trying to be fair and balanced with it, or at least to present yourself that way, you come out with a cease and desist letter first. So he can take it as a threat to sue, and it kind of is. It's just saying we don't want to, and all you have to do is stop lying about our organization.
A cease and desist letter is the first step towards a defamation lawsuit. I interpret this letter as Turning Point telling me to shut my mouth or they're going to sue me. I do not understand what Erica Kirk is doing. Out of the hundreds of people posting on social media about Turning Point, why are they targeting me? Why are they so worried about what I am saying that they're sending me legal letters? I am one of the smallest YouTube channels in my market segment.
That's not his YouTube channel. So he posts his X account. As opposed to saying, I've got nearly 400,000 subscribers, he says, oh, here's X. I've got 26,000. Oh, which is small. It's a small channel. And so this is automatically deceptive right off the bat.
I think I am. I'm a working accountant with a small YouTube channel. I have no money. I have no power. I have no influence. I don't know how much money they think they're going to get from suing me. All I have is the truth. And I'm not going to stop speaking the truth because Erica Kirk doesn't like it. The one good thing about a lawsuit is that everything will be out in the open, and Turning Point will quickly find out that I have nothing to hide. The letter came from a lawyer named Paul Edgar Harold from South Bend, Indiana. It seems like this is Turning Point's lawyer. I looked him up, and I cannot find that he has been admitted to the State Bar of Arizona in order to practice law in Arizona, so I'm not exactly sure how he's going to sue me in Arizona, but maybe he's working with other lawyers. In the letter, they order me to, please confirm that you will publicly correct your false statements immediately. This is not what I was going to talk about this week, but Turning Point is demanding that I communicate their statements publicly. So here we go. They include a whole list of statements they claim are false that I have made in my videos about Turning Point. Now, I'm not interested in spreading false information, so I'm glad that Turning Point reached out to me because if I said something wrong, I am happy to correct it. So let us go through the statements where they have a problem. And you're going to want to hear this because some of these are wild. On November 16th, I posted a video called Bombshell, Did Turning Point USA Commit Fraud? They say these are false claims. Charlie Kirk ordered a Doe-style audit that was never conducted. Here is my first problem with this letter. They do not include the actual quote that I said in the video. This is a paraphrased statement of what I said, and they are saying that the paraphrased statement is a lie. You have to tell me exactly what I said that was supposedly a lie, and they do this through the whole letter.
No, they don't.
So my request to this lawyer in future letters, because I'm assuming there's going to be more, please include the actual quote that I said so that I can respond to your accusation. But I'm going to at least try to interpret what they're saying. I spoke in my video about a memo that Charlie Kirk wrote 8 days before he was murdered. In the cease and desist letter, they say, indeed, Turning Point USA's COO announcement concerning the Doge effort never used the word audit. So this is breaking news. Turning Point's attorney has now confirmed that the Charlie Kirk memo is authentic. We now have legal confirmation this did happen. It seems like their problem with my video is that I called it a Doge audit, when in the memo it is written as Doge effort. So they want everyone to use the word effort and not use the word audit.
Context. This is what matters. Context matters in this because the difference between an audit and an effort is wildly different. An audit is an official procedure with legal and procedural requirements. People know that and people equate it to that. An effort it's an innocuous term. It's saying it's an effort we're going to do to try to be more fiscally responsible, to try to do more things, to save more money for our donors and for our organization to use in other places. We're going to go through and take a look at our books and all that. That's an innocuous term. It's an informal proceeding. When people hear audit, they think IRS audit. They think a third party audit, which they went on to say, he'll say it in a second, which they went on to do and have been doing every year. An effort, the terminology is completely different. It frames it completely different for the audience, and this is part of their problem. So that's not a ridiculous ask to say an effort, a Doge-style effort versus an audit.
This letter is seriously hurting my head. Whatever word you use, the memo is clearly talking about an evaluation of Turning Point. But we cannot use the word audit. We have to call it an effort, or they are going to sue you. The letter goes on to say, the announcement makes clear that Turning Point USA was doing what it has always pledged to donors, ensuring it was being efficient with its funds and time and making changes to foster greater efficiencies. Moreover, Turning Point USA hires a third-party audit firm to conduct an audit every year. This is all just their opinion. This is how they are interpreting Charlie Kirk's memo. They think that Charlie Kirk wrote this memo, and they think it means that they do not have to do anything. How convenient. They think that Charlie Kirk wrote a memo just to tell people to keep doing business as usual. Well, my opinion, and the opinion of many other people, was that Charlie Kirk's memo meant something different.
You can have that opinion, but that doesn't mean he's assuming so much. They're saying that what they are doing or going to do. They aren't saying what they're going to do or what they should do or how they interpreted the memo. He is assuming that they're saying, well, they think that Charlie Kirk's memo means they don't have to do anything. That's not the case. They're not under no obligation to tell them what they are or are not doing. They're just saying that the way that you framed this is entirely incorrect and it's misleading.
This is not a statement of fact. It is an opinion. This is another problem I have with this letter. Most of the statements they mention are opinions, just like this one. If you are going to accuse me of defamatory statements, they need to be facts, not opinions. If I have a fact wrong, let me know and I will happily correct it. But I will not change my opinion of this memo to whatever you want. But since it is so important for Turning Point, I have no problem with specifying that Charlie Kirk's memo used the words Doge effort, not Doge audit. The next statement is, someone at Turning Point decided not to file 990 forms. At the time I made that video, those forms were not publicly posted. Those forms were posted after I made that video, and I've already made a correction about that. The next statement is,
okay, I have to stop on this one. This is something that I've highlighted before, and I didn't realize this. I didn't know this. But when I was doing research for nonprofit, I was doing it for the show, and the nonprofits that were trafficking people across the southern border and how they were expanding in size, I found it weird that you could look at some of these nonprofits, monstrous nonprofits, and the earliest data you could find would be something like 2021 or 2022. And I went to some that are good. This is obviously, we know that this is a good nonprofit. They're good people and nothing nefarious. This is Lila Rose's Live Action. The earliest tax form, you can see it down here at the bottom, is tax year 2021. Here's their Form 990. Just because it doesn't exist doesn't mean that there's something nefarious is going on. Just because it's not on the IRS website doesn't mean that something nefarious is going on, that there's ill intent, that there's criminal activity. But they ran with that, and they ran with it for weeks. And here you go. This is the Lutheran Immigration Refugee Services. The earliest one you can find is 2022 for them. Here's the, let's see, which one was this? This is Wounded Warrior Project, 2023. That's pretty standard to have the 2023. We're starting year 2025, but it takes a while for these things to be posted. If there's anomalies or there's changes that needed to be made, there's extended filings, there's all kinds of things that could delay it arriving on the website. But they just said not just, but back when they were doing their videos, they were saying this is evidence of nefarious activity. This is evidence of something illicit. And that's not accurate. That is not true. This is why they're saying, okay, well, you shouldn't have said it in the first place because you purport to be an accountant, which I assume that he is. I have no reason to believe he's not. but it's misleading. Let's keep going. Let's see. I think I hit all my points on that one. Yeah. Here we go.
In 2023, $650,000 may have been funneled from Turning Point USA through Turning Point Action to Turning Point PAC to evade campaign finance restrictions. They are referencing this chart from my video. They claim money actually went from Turning Point Action to Turning Point USA as a reimbursement for event expense. There was nothing nefarious about that transfer. I'm not sure they are contradicting what I'm saying. According to their own statement, Turning Point USA used their own donor funds to pay for an event on behalf of Turning Point Action, freeing up Turning Point Action funds, which they then transferred to Turning Point PAC. They are saying that later, Turning Point Action reimbursed Turning Point USA for that event. But that doesn't change what I was saying. Additionally, in my video, I specifically said, again, this is not necessarily illegal if they structure their transactions correctly and utilize campaign finance loopholes, but it certainly looks unethical. That is my opinion. This money did move between the organizations. I'm allowed to have my opinion. On November 30th, I posted a video called Explosive, More Fraud at Turning Point USA. They say these are false claims. There was more fraud at Turning Point USA. I assume they are referring to the title of the video here. They, of course, are saying that there is no fraud at Turning Point USA. The content of the video is me going over the evidence of fraud and sharing my opinion. Now, technically, a true statement would be that no one has been convicted of fraud at Turning Point USA, but whether fraud is going on right now is an opinion. This is what happens in every criminal court case. Both sides look at the facts. One side gives their opinion that they are innocent. The other side gives their opinion that they are guilty.
Okay, so let's talk about this. The problem with this is they're asserting fraud in all of their rhetoric. So the entire thing is set up to imply that fraud is going on at TPUSA. And, they're doing this without actual evidence. They're saying, well, this is my opinion. I'm journalisming, right? This is what they're doing. I'm journalisming, and I'm spreading all this stuff as though it is fact. And I'm feeding the false narrative that originated. We know where it originated with the headline for tonight, Candace and these other people that are implying that fraud was going on. And then they're falling back on, well, this is just an investigation. We're just investigating, right? So you can ask questions, but you can't imply guilt or claim guilt in a manner that harms the organization or people that work for the organization. At that point, it is defamation. I'm sorry, but it is. And this is how it's all been framed from the get-go. However, they can, it's the 10% truth and 90% lies, and they fall back on, well, I told this is true. This was accurate. Accurate things with surrounded and held up by misleading information.
Turning Point is looking at the financials and claiming that they are innocent. I understand that. I'm looking at the same financials and thinking they look suspicious. I did not even say in my video that they committed fraud. I think I'm very fair and balanced when I say, now for legal reasons, I have to say that I do not have any evidence of a crime. We would need an investigation of the books at Turning Point to know for sure. What I am saying is that there are red flags in the financials at Turning Point and a lot of questions that need to be answered. That sounds to me to be pretty fair and balanced, and the complete opposite of what they are accusing me of saying. They cannot take my statements out of context and accuse me of defamation. I have the right, as a journalist, to report on Turning Point's financials. Their opinion that they have not committed fraud is just an opinion. My opinion is that it looks suspicious.
Can I make one other point here? Can I? It's my show. I'm going to. One other point here is that it's part of the thumbnail, the title, all the lead in is implying something. Right? You're trying to evoke some sort of a reaction. And he started off with the headline being more fraud at TPUSA. That sets the watcher, the viewer, off on that path. And he took it and ran with it to the tune of hundreds of thousands or millions of views. And defamation, which is why he got the letter. Let's keep going.
Now, it is nice that we have this letter with their official statements. But the letter does nothing to change my suspicions. It does not address most of my questions. Instead of answering my questions, it is the precursor to a lawsuit unless I change my statements. That does nothing to reduce my suspicions. For the sake of avoiding miscommunication, I can change the title of the video if that makes them more happy. I already changed it from More Fraud at Turning Point USA to More Fraud at Turning Point USA, allegedly. The next statement is that America's Turning Point had ghost employees. The letter explains, America's Turning Point had 80 employees in FY23 and 108 in FY24. There was, however, an inadvertent error in America's Turning Point filing, which failed to note these employees, and America's Turning Point is in the process of rectifying that inadvertent error. So I was right. There was something wrong. They did put incorrect information on the 990 form. There were missing employees they were not reporting. They have confirmed it. And just to be clear, this was not some minor mistake. This was around 80 employees that were somehow missing. Their complaint is that it's not correct to use the term ghost employees. I don't know if I necessarily agree with that opinion, but that is their position. I find this incredible. How are they going to sue me for this? They admit that I am right that the employees were not reported correctly. They don't like the wording I used. How is that defamatory?
Because ghost employees, that term in and of itself says or implies that TPUSA was fabricating employees to commit some sort of financial fraud, which was the premise of the entire video. More fraud at TPUSA. So this is building a narrative. Again, it's the same. It's all like on a loop. These people they're kudos to them for being good at it. I'm not that crafty. I'll be honest with you guys. If you're a subscriber of this channel, I ain't that crafty. But this is, I mean, my goodness.
The next statement is that donations to Turning Point Action increased from $10.7 million in FY23 to $27.2 million in FY24, and suggested that Tyler Boyer may have been recruiting these donors away from Turning Point USA to undermine MAGA and benefit himself. Again, this is not exactly what I said, and I find their paraphrasing of my statements a little silly. They are claiming that Tyler Boyer never tried to undermine Charlie Kirk in any of his decisions. Tyler Boyer never tried to benefit himself in his role at Turning Point. I find those claims a little excessive. What I actually say in my video was sharing my opinion on the financials, which I'm allowed to do. When you see Tyler Boyer's organization growing so much faster than Charlie Kirk's organization, that looks to me like a corporate takeover from the inside. That is my...
Okay, one part of an organization. Hang on, let's play.
What I actually say in my video was sharing my opinion on the financials, which I'm allowed to do. When you see Tyler Boyer's organization growing so much faster than Charlie Kirk's organization, that looks to me like a corporate takeover from the inside.
Why? Why? In what way, other than having a preconceived notion or that's the narrative that you want it to be, why does saying, wow, this side of the organization grew a lot faster than the other side of the organization, nobody assumes that that's a hostile takeover? That's a successful fundraiser. That's a change that's the priorities of effort for TPUSA or TPA. But to say, hostile takeover. Let's go with the big story, right? Let's go with the big line, the shock line. Not the truthful one, not the one that his claim doesn't pass the smell test, doesn't pass the common sense test.
That is my opinion, which I'm allowed to have. Now, of course, I cannot know what is going on inside Tyler Boyer's mind, but that's not what I said in my video. I was not speaking about his state of mind or his motivation. I do not know that. The letter goes on to explain that donors naturally direct more money towards election activities in election years, especially to organizations like Turning Point Action that can engage in lobbying and political activity during election years. Accordingly, you are wrong to assert that the increased donations to Turning Point Action evinced any sort of wrongdoing on...
Let me see if I can fast forward to the drone one. Let's see. Discrepancy. Oh, yeah, here we go.
I do not believe it, and that is my opinion.
Oh, wait, hang on.
Lobbying and political activity during election years. Accordingly, you are wrong to assert that the increased donations to Turning Point Action evinced any sort of wrongdoing on Mr. Boyer's part. So their explanation is that all the changes in the financials can be explained by the election. That is their official explanation. I do not believe it, and that is my opinion.
Why don't you believe it? What evidence do you have to say that that is a false statement? I'm waiting. Crickets, crickets. We all hear crickets.
On December 7th, I posted a video called Top 10 Clowns of the Year. In this video, I called Turning Point my #1 clown of the year. I talked about the now infamous interview with Turning Point's chief security person talking about the day that Charlie Kirk was murdered. I point out the massive contradiction where he says they were not allowed to fly drones. Then I show the interview with Frank Turek where he says he was watching drone footage with Charlie Kirk. This part is breaking news because I'm not aware this has ever been discussed. The lawyer in this letter says the following: there was no discrepancy. UVU prohibited Turning Point USA from flying drones for security purposes during the event, but did allow a Turning Point USA media production drone to briefly fly over the location before the event to collect limited B-roll footage. First of all, how could this be defamatory if I had no idea about any of this? Second, I find this explanation absurd. You are telling me that the security team was not allowed drones, but the media team was? That is the official explanation from Turning Point's lawyer.
Yes, and let me explain to you why, because I have experience in this. Why would they not allow drones during the event? Because you can't distinguish between a hostile drone or a friendly drone. When you are flying a drone, because I do this for a living, as part of being a videographer, photographer, all of those things, drones are very much a part of this. You can't distinguish between a hostile or a friendly drone. The drones are flying at a distance. They're very small, if you're depending on the type of drone you're flying. And if you are a security team and you see one and then you see two, you don't know which one is friendly, which one is hostile. Right? And a hostile drone could approach the stage looking like their media drone, then deploy some sort of device because they have ill intent. There's no way for the security team to know that. So during specific times and specific places in the presence of security personnel, you can fly a media drone to collect B-roll, then bring it down before the event so that you have a no-fly zone over that event. That just increases security. That takes out the whole air element, so they know that any drone that is in the air is a hostile drone, and they can use whatever, if they have them, if local police or the campus, if they have some sort of drone countermeasure, which I doubt they do, but maybe they do, then you can deploy those against the hostile drone because you know it's not supposed to be there. And whether it belongs to just some random college kid trying to fly it to get footage of the event, or somebody who wishes to do TPUSA, Charlie Kirk, or anyone else harm, there you've removed the possibility of taking down one of the media drones. This is common sense, and it may very well be why this guy doesn't understand it. He did not speak to a security person who would understand this, that it's about eliminating threats and controlling areas. We can talk about how that failed, which it obviously did. But the drone thing, I can't fathom. Well, maybe you ought to fathom, buddy. Use a little common sense instead of trying to stick with the narrative. You're more worried. He's more worried about not being wrong, more worried about being right than he is about being, or not right. He's more worried about getting his message and his preconceived notions across to his audience than he is about being honest. Fair point if you ask me.
My honest opinion is I do not believe that. But if that did happen, that is really silly, and it may have cost Charlie Kirk his life. On December 14th, I posted a video called Tim Pool Rants about Turning Point. They say these are false claims. Asking whether money sent to 110 LLC was to bribe Jay Kaufman. Again, that's not exactly what I said. They are complaining that I'm not allowed to ask questions. I cannot ask questions about 110 LLC. I cannot ask questions about Jay Kaufman. I think those are fair questions to ask, given that Turning Point sends them millions of dollars as one of their largest independent contractors. This is America. I'm allowed to ask questions. But I think it is fair for Turning Point to also state their official position. They claim, Turning Point contracts with 110 LLC for legitimate services. The money you ask about is spent on marketing and advertising services. Any claim that it is a bribe is false. The second statement is, asking why America's Turning Point lists its COO, Tyler Boyer, as an independent contractor. Again, they are saying, I'm not allowed to ask questions. Does Turning Point see the irony in this? Charlie Kirk died under a tent with the slogan, "Prove me wrong." His whole college campus tour was about asking questions. And now Turning Point is sending out legal letters to small YouTube channels accusing them of defamation for asking questions.
That's not what they're doing. Again, he's framing it as the victim. This is what they do. This is what leftists do. This is what people that are part of this cult do, is they say, I'm the victim, I'm the victim. And you aren't the victim, you're the perpetrator, because you're the one that got the letter. You're the one that we listened to. We listened to you saying the things that you said. We saw you say the things you said. We watched it on your videos, and TPUSA is responding, as is their right.
Asking the question why their COO was an independent contractor. I think that is unusual. That is my opinion. Turning Point is now stating their official position. America's Turning Point lists its COO as an independent contractor because his substantive role for America's Turning Point is more in line with the contractor classification. So this is new information. Now we know Turning Point is intentionally doing this. This is not a mistake. They are intentionally classifying their COO as an independent contractor, which means they are not withdrawing payroll taxes to send to the IRS. Now, if I were their CFO, I would not do this. But for some reason, their CFO, the politician Justin Olson, has determined with all of his accounting expertise that this is the best way to classify their employees.
It's not about being the best way to classify their employees. And we're talking about one employee, possibly more. Who knows? Yeah, exactly, Michelle. I just saw that one. Yeah, his YouTube channel isn't small. It's something like 500. It's just shy of 400,000. So he's saying that this is the best way to classify their employees. That is hearsay and speculation. This is one individual, one case. And they only classified, as far as we know, this one guy. Payroll taxes for one person, which is what he's implying, that they're in some sort of, that the IRS is going to come down on them for not paying payroll tax for one guy. Well, you obviously don't have to pay payroll tax for an independent contractor. Maybe this guy takes a large salary and he has outside businesses and other things that he's involved in, and he wants everything filed outside of TPUSA. And, because he can increase the number of write-offs he has in 1 year, doing all the things that he does outside of TPUSA. TPUSA isn't paying for a 401k. They're not paying for health insurance. When he's an independent contractor, he picks up all the expenses that the business would normally pick up. Maybe it's because to be an employee at TPUSA, they had, some stipulation as the COO, and he didn't want to be under that stipulation, and they negotiated it for him to be a contractor. Because the other part of that is when that guy is paid, a contractor bills at an hourly rate, an annual rate, a retainer This is what a lot of them do. They say, here's my retainer, and this gets you X amount of time throughout the year. And then he's responsible for paying the taxes on that after the fact. So this is it weird or is it different? Yeah, I've never heard of a COO like that, but I haven't been part of that many monstrous organizations. And he's just saying that this is some sort of fraud, that this is happening. Fine, give your legal advice or your financial advice that, I probably wouldn't do that, but there's nothing illegal about it, because there isn't. So why did you imply it was illegal in the first place?
Whatever the reason, this is Turning Point's opinion about an IRS classification. It is not a statement of fact, and I'm allowed my own opinion. The letter also states, more generally, you have accused the Turning Point entities of being shell companies. This too is false. They are arguing about what can be defined as a shell company. They don't want anyone to call Turning Point's multiple organizations shell companies. Personally, I do not agree that it is an incorrect use of the definition. Turning Point is moving money between organizations like some kind of shell game. A shell game is a classic street hustle and magic trick.
Shell games and shell companies are not the same thing. Shell companies are legal entities with few or no assets or operations. That's not the case with any of these organizations. They are big organizations, a lot of volunteers, a lot of paid staff. It's not a shell game. This is not a shell game sort of thing. And shell companies can serve as vehicles for legitimate business. So if you want to call it a shell company, but that's not the reputation that they have. The reputation is for the illicit side of shell companies, this hollow organization that exists on paper, but is used to launder money to do something financially illegal, and this is what they are implying. They know why they say shell company, because it implies the negative rather than the very rare positive. It again, shaping the narrative. It's the whole thing. We have to take it all into consideration. This guy the word smithing is interesting, but it's fairly easily debunked and justified why they would send a letter based on the way he made his videos.
So in my opinion, I think it would be appropriate to call them shell companies. But if Turning Point is so upset about the word shell company, I have no problem calling them something else from now on.
Then how about you, and I have to make one other point on this, how about you redefine? And when I say shell, I think these are shell companies. Are these shell companies? I think they're shell companies, and there could be fraud, but not the typical version of a shell company like you're thinking of. I'm thinking of a shell game. Maybe these are legitimate businesses, or these are legitimate businesses, but they're moving money around. No. It implies the negative.
On December 28th, I posted a video called Shocking, Turning Point Fraud Gets Worse. They claim you recklessly repeated many of the previously described falsehoods and again directed viewers to the home address of Mr. Boyer, which has resulted in threats to Mr. Boyer's safety. Let me explicitly state that I condemn any violence, any threat, any harassment being sent to any employee at Turning Point. Do not even harass them on X.com. Do not retweet at them. Do not send them angry messages. Keep your comments in my comment section. Just for the record, I will repeat what I have previously said. And I have to tell people, please do not go to Tyler Boyer's house. That is not appropriate. I was in no way calling for violence against Tyler Boyer, and you are absolutely false in claiming that I was. In the video, I blacked out Tyler Boyer's address, which I did not have to do. He put the address himself on a public document. That's not my fault. That's his fault.
So I share public information, and because you put your address on it, that's on you, buddy. No, incorrect. That's doxing. Doxing is bad. In case he forgot, Mr. Finance Guy, you might be good at punching a calculator, but when it comes to this, it's doxing, dude. And in this political environment, if you knowingly did something like that, that is just cause for some sort of a lawsuit.
Don't blame me when I have tried to protect his privacy. So that is the letter. There are more paragraphs of legal language that I skipped, but that is pretty much the letter. I have to say that in general, most of the things they brought up were nitpicky little things, like they don't want me to use the word audit or the words shell company. Those are not even facts. But I am going out of my way to adjust for some of their requests. And I want to mention something else. Take a moment and think of all the statements they listed in this letter as problematic. I think it's around 11 statements they are claiming are false. Now think about all the things I have talked about in my videos on Turning Point. There are a lot of other things that I have said in my videos that were never mentioned in this letter. They did not say I got those statements wrong. I think that is very telling.
And there you go. End on an accent, buddy. The crescendo in the accent. Here you go. Look at my other videos. They didn't say anything about that stuff. That's telling. All right, there you go. Well, here's how the lawyers, I'm sure, looked at it. I'm not a legal expert. All right, I wouldn't give somebody legal advice, but they didn't they didn't say I got those things wrong, and that is very telling, as he says. So what's the most easily proven in a court of law? That's what they're thinking. What's the most easily proven in a court of law? What gives the highest likelihood of winning a lawsuit if a lawsuit were to come down? What are the clearest statements he made implying criminality on the part of TPUSA? Let's put those in there, send them to him, and tell him to stop saying those things. Question all you want, because this is the thing. They think it's a cooling effect for them speaking at all, and that's not the case. It's the same case that a leftist makes. He's making the same. I'm going to assume he's a leftist. Let's just call him a leftist for the fun of it. But they say, it's my free speech, and then they continue to do things that violate people's First Amendment rights, that are defamation or defamatory, that are, you're not allowed to say, that are threatening, whatever. And they say, but First Amendment. And if there's any repercussions, or if there's any, justice for them having done something like that, they say, you're quashing First Amendment rights. This is the same thing they're going to say about Don Lemon and the people that went into the church, that Donald Trump is violating their First Amendment rights. My goodness. So I know that was a lengthy, a very lengthy, I typically don't do lengthy videos like that. If you guys enjoy that sort of thing, let me know. But this is just I'm a little tired of it, to be honest. And I hope that it shuts up Candace, at least not to shut her up, but it stops the madness, the silly things she's saying, the defamatory things. And that's kind of the question. Will this have the intended effect? I don't think it will with Candace. I think she's gonna, she turned her ire, like I say, she turned her anger towards Erica Kirk. Here's one of, I think this was part of the last video, and I didn't play the tail end of it. Let me play this one. She's like a jealous schoolgirl. That's kind of how this is. This is like high school.
I'm so rich. We are so rich. We can buy whatever we want. And so now we're just going to buy you, and we're going to make people like us because we can afford it. We can buy social standing. Erica, chairman, CEO. Erica, my girl. Heavy is the head that wears the crown after its rightful owner was deposed. Am I right?
It's quite despicable. It really is. It is quite despicable. So Erica Kirk's going to keep, this is going to be her focus now. Either she's going to stop, I don't think that's the case, or she's going to double down. And her husband will pay for the lawsuits. He'll pay for the damages. She could afford some of it. I think that ought to come out of her allowance. I don't know what you guys think. My goodness. Okay. I am so thank you all so much for all the comments. I try. Casey, I just saw your comment. Oh, that's, I try to. It's hard sometimes, but sorry, that was really funny. Oh my goodness. Let's see. Facts aren't defamation, and neither are opinion. Let's see. He didn't put out Tyler Boyer's edit. He's okay. They got a case. Let me get to some of these comments here. Yeah, he is so slick and swarmy. He is also sued. There you go. Let's see. It's like Pekin High School projection. Let's see. Okay. All right. I'm going to get to comments again here in just a minute. Let's hit a couple other things. If you guys don't know who Caitlin Bennett is, it's not somebody. Oh wait. By the way, no, I'm not going to pull that one up. That's not necessary. A couple other headlines that I think you guys are going to find interesting, and more to follow on this one. But Caitlin Bennett, she's been going out and doing this this kind of man on the street sort of thing. She was on Tim Pool the other day. I'd forgotten about her until she was on, and once I watched some of that episode, she started popping back up into my feed. And this was her recently. She was basically going to interview some of these protesters, and listen to the interaction she had with the cops down there.
She's literally asking the police to remove me from public property.
All right, you guys need to move.
Why? Over here, First Amendment area.
Yeah, this is a First Amendment area.
You don't have a permit here. They do.
Yeah, so what does the permit
it's
do?
time to leave.
I want my rights to be respected. I'm
You are-
allowed to be on public
Right
property.
here is our First Amendment area, number 5,
Yeah.
for small groups and counter protesters.
Yeah.
You're a small group,
No, I'm not.
and you're a counter.
I'm media.
Are you here with this group?
I'm here with media.
You need to move.
They're thanking them for writing me a
Let's
ticket.
go. You're
for...
being detained for a ticket. Over here. Let's go. Yeah, you're on federal land. I'm a federal officer.
Yes, great.
So you're getting a
So
federal
you-
ticket.
Okay, great. I can't wait to fight this. The liberals here in St. Augustine, Florida, are cheering because this guy is trying to kick me off of public property.
No. You get to stand here
No,
on federal public property.
public.
Where
You
we
notice you
tell
said
you
public?
to be.
You don't
Okay.
get to tell me which
I
public
do.
property
I'm
I
with
can
the
be
National
at.
Park Service.
Yeah. Tell me
We
how this is
designate
private
First
property.
Amendment area. I'm sorry
This
that
is
you
my
don't know
First
the rules
Amendment.
and regulations. I'm sorry.
Oh man, this is gonna be good.
Do you have anything with your ID on?
No,
Okay, get your mic out of my face.
I'm allowed to do this. This is my First
You're not
Amendment
allowed
right.
to stick your mic in my face. So step back and get it out of my face.
So here's the thing. I am on public property. He just admitted I was on public property. This is not permitted to turn this space into private property. You guys cannot do this. We have been over this in Florida with 3 different police departments. 3. I love
Content for you.
more. Did
disobey-
you say more content
Yeah,
for me?
more
Thank
content.
you.
Disobeying a lawful order is your ticket.
What lawful order was that?
I directed you to go from there
Yeah.
to here.
Yeah. And you think that was
And
lawful?
you refused my lawful order.
Yeah. So that was lawful, huh?
So this is United States District Court violation
Okay.
notice. It's a $500 forfeiture,
Okay.
$30 processing fee.
Very cool.
Total collateral is $530.
What was the lawful order that you just?
He didn't tell me.
He didn't tell you?
Yeah, that's a good question. There's a local journalist here. Actually, why don't you go ask him? You're a journalist. Go ask him. Go ask him. So you asked what lawful order I disobeyed.
And he couldn't tell me, he said.
This is interesting. I find this interesting because federal land, the restrictions and the leniency, or I guess not the leniency, but their ability to dictate what you do on federal land is different than what we would consider public land. I'm interested because it's a federal park. But if that's the case, and they're saying no, this is the only place that you can express your First Amendment rights is in your designated zone, that doesn't pass the smell test to me. But again, it is federal land, and they can make some wonky rules and say in this piece of federal. This is why I don't like the federal government owning as much land as they do, which they are massive amounts of land. Some of it national parks and all that kind of stuff. But once they lay stake to a piece of land, they can insert some pretty weird rules. So I'm not 100% certain that she's in the right on this one. You guys let me know. Maybe y'all are smarter about this than I am. But the only federal land I'm familiar with is, military installations. And in those places, as military people, we don't have all of our rights. You don't get a pure First Amendment right. You don't get a pure Second Amendment right. That's for sure, especially if you're living on a military installation. You have to forego some of that. But if it's public space, public federal land, what kind of restrictions can they do that and say that we have First Amendment zones, that your rights don't exist in these other parts of the property? Seemed very strange to me. And I saw it right before this, thought it would be interesting. And I would just pose the question to people who know more about that than me. But, she's being a journalist, and the left loves this. They drool over this sort of thing. As soon as they can take away somebody's right to free speech, they love it. Not defamation, by the way, for the people who are going to say, but you're talking about, no. We're talking about defamation versus just interviewing people. It's very interesting. Okay, next one we're going to talk about is, actually, should I just get to comments? You guys have been burning up the comments tonight. It's fantastic. We got KC, Megan, we've got Infoy, let's see, Tracy, we've got all kinds of folks that just keep coming back, and y'all are awesome. You're making this channel grow. I appreciate it. For the new folks, because I haven't done this disclaimer yet, I would invite you to go ahead and hit that subscribe button, like button, and notification bell. Really helps the channel out. It helps us in the algorithm. We are growing, and it takes you guys. It takes you guys to do it. I can't do it alone. Otherwise, I'm just a guy sitting here talking in front of a microphone to myself, and that's no fun. I got a chat here. I got all these engaged people. It's great. So, okay, here we go. Gigi said, yeah, they got a case. Are you talking about let's see. That might have been earlier. Sorry. That might have been earlier. Okay. Let's see. Yeah, I'm going to hit one more. Scott Jennings. And this is going to the illegals, and then I'm going to get to comments, I promise. Let's see. So Scott Jennings, I love the guy. I've said it so many times, he's exactly where he needs to be. Being on CNN, talking to these crazy left-wing people. But let's play this clip. This is talking about the illegals. I continue to hit it on this channel, and I'm going to continue to hit it because it's a huge drain on the taxpayers. I care about the taxpayers in this country. I love my fellow Americans, left and right, though I think the left is crazy. I still love them, and I don't want them to have a tax burden either. If they happen to have kids, I don't want their kids to owe $100,000 to the federal government. But this is talking about Medicaid for illegals, and listen to how Scott Jennings handles this.
Political analysis is wrong.
Kind of a mic
I don't
drop.
think it's unpopular at all to try to reform an entitlement program to save it for the people who need it, to keep illegal aliens from getting welfare benefits they shouldn't be getting, to encourage people to go to work. I don't think these things should be shied away from by
None
Republicans.
of that is true. First of all, I think Medicaid
It's exactly true.
Medicaid
It's
is not
exactly
true.
what's in the bill.
Federal law prohibits undocumented immigrants
Then why
from
are
receiving
1.4
Medicaid
million
benefits.
on it? Why are
That's a figment
1.4
of your
million?
imagination.
It's a
Let me
figment of the CBO's documents.
Let me explain the facts.
It's in the
to you.
CBO documents.
I'll explain the facts.
Is it
to
or
you.
not?
Let me explain. It's not actually.
No, you are lying.
You know, that is not. It is not true.
Okay, hang on a sec.
It is. In the Congressional Budget Office, they talk about this. The number of illegals that are getting these benefits.
Fencing facts out of thin air.
All right.
So Medicaid is.
Hold on, guys.
Medicaid,
state program.
Medicaid,
Hold on.
Medicaid is the most popular program after Social Security and Medicare. So $1 trillion cut to Medicaid, which is what Republicans just did, is not only bad morals and bad economics, it's bad politics. Medicaid is actually more popular than you, Scott Jennings. It has 70% approval rating among Republicans.
How do you know what my approval
More than
rating is?
80% among independents, more than 90% among Democrats. It's political suicide for Republicans
I think
to
it's
get
political
Medicaid.
suicide to come on as a member of Congress and lie about what the CBO
Okay,
says.
so
The majority of
1.4
people,
million illegals are on it.
people who benefit from Medicaid are senior citizens and those with disabilities. Almost
Yeah, I
all
don't disagree
Medicaid
with you.
funding goes toward the elderly, the disabled, children, and working adults.
That's who it's for.
And that's
It's not for
and those are the
illegals.
people for
It's
whom it
not for
principally
illegals.
benefits.
Scott, just to disentangle this here, the federal law prohibits undocumented people from getting Medicaid. That is the law.
But they're on it.
Okay, not the federally funded part of Medicaid. States have
Okay.
their own funding mechanisms, and some of them have chosen to expand it to include everyone. There's a difference here. Now
So here's the problem. This is a shell game, Mr. Finance Guy, that states who, they take on these social programs, and you take on social programs, now you have to pay for those social programs. When they expanded at the state level, shortfalls in other places start coming from the federal government because they're pumping so much into those. This is it's a math equation. X number of dollars coming in, X number of dollars going out. The Democrats and some big R Republicans continue to increase the amount that's going out. It gets, and we're talking about the state level. So those state level expenditures rise. They get federal subsidies, federal funding, and they're offsetting the cost of all that, or they're basically taking it. It becomes a net negative for these states. So yes, it is true. The CBO says that massive numbers of these people are getting access to social safety nets, and we're the ones paying for it. I'm not down with that. A lot of people like to talk about, Christians, that we should be more lefty because of giving things out. And I say it's because we have, for many reasons, we have replaced God with government. It's supposed to be the church that's taking care of these people, but instead it becomes the theft of the federal government, taking our money, our hard-earned money, taxing future generations, being entirely irresponsible with what we have given them, and they just keep wanting more and more and more. Give me more, give me more, give me more. And that ain't part of the deal, right? Yeah, you got to give unto Caesar, but how much do you give? Caesar's getting enough right now. We don't have a revenue problem. We've got a massive spending problem, and when we have $9 billion in one little state like Minnesota, we're going to uncover more. $600 billion, by the way, is Scott Bessent's estimate on fraud in the United States. $600 billion. That's almost half of our deficit. We got $1.5 trillion deficit. $600 billion is just in fraud, and that's with a narrow focus. We saw it during Doge and all that. Pennies make sense. Cents make dollars. It all starts to pile up. All right, let's get to comments here. Let's see. Golly, so many good comments. Let me pull up some of them here. She's still tagging. I know she spent the last and largest portion of her show talking about pop culture. Yeah, there you go. Maybe people are just getting tired of it. Maybe that's it. There's fatigue, or she's losing people. And she says, well, nobody's hanging around for the last half of the show. She's hitting the bombshells right up front. And they say, okay, I can only tolerate her voice so much. Let's see. I worked at a restaurant at that time. They only opened up for, I'm going to go back to this one. Maybe that's also her way of stepping back to rhetoric. She was like, I had this whole show set up here to talk about Erica Kirk and Andrew Colvett and, all of these people. Maybe let's just put that on the back burner. We'll talk about that later. So, I worked at a restaurant at that time. They only opened up for a waitress on a wedding reception. I worked with the restaurant in the morning. Let's see. Anyone knows that she told Baron Coleman it was Dave? Oh gosh, no, I didn't see that. No, I hadn't heard that one. Well, she's mad at Dave Rubin because Dave Rubin outed her for being a what, and talking bad about Charlie Kirk in a private dinner that they had. I talked about that a couple of days ago. We discussed it, and it's kind of weird that he brought it out later. But I say weird. It's not really weird. It's that the timing wasn't great. He probably should have come out early on and said it, but he was. I don't know Dave Rubin personally, but I know the reputation that he has as a pretty solid guy. He was probably just thinking, okay, look, there's no point in bringing this up right now. It's just going to look even worse now. If this continues, I'll say something. And he finally unleashed it. So she's just poo-poo faced about that. Yeah, well, there you go. That's it. What's the takeaway? Says Candace will make her audience pay her legal bills. She'll sell more CIA merch. She'll sell more stuff. And you're right. She'll fleece her people. She'll take every penny she can off the folks that follow her. And that's it. That is it. And they'll keep doing it. Why give her your hard-earned money? What value are you getting out of Candace Owens? I really would love to know. Let me defend whatever she does. She's already... Yeah. Tracy's going to be poor. Yeah. Well, here's the other piece. Okay. This is a great point too, because she plays the every person, the every girl, the every lady, the mom, I'm just a mom, just your regular run of the mill mom. No, you're not. No, you're not. You're anything but. You are anything but. You are a fabulously wealthy person. Kudos to your husband and kudos to you for your podcast success of lying to people in order to get them to give you money every month. But you're not you look, you're wearing $1,500 jackets and touting yourself as though you're just like everybody else. I'm sorry, you're not. You're not. Let's see. Yeah, I think you're probably right, Tracy. Most people are for TPUSA. It's kind of hard to tell. There's a lot of topics that divide us, and Israel being one of the big ones. So, we'll see. Many other people preach about wanting the truth, but have an issue when it comes to retracting their own. Such a great point, KC. Such a great point. They do preach about, I'm all about truth. I'm in my investigation, and I'm going to reveal more, and I'm here for you, and I'm here to find the truth. And when they spout nonsense, and some part of me doesn't think that they know that they're spouting nonsense. They actually believe the things that they're saying, which that just says they're misinformed, or they're part of the hive mentality. They've succumbed to the hive mentality. But those of us on the outside, we can see it for exactly what it is, which is that's not true. There's no evidence of that. You're just saying thing, right? And that's what they do, because it does get them a lot of clicks. I go on the internet and I say thing that makes people click it and makes the bots click it. And Tim Pool has made this point before that Candace violates so many YouTube rules and restrictions. So many. The conspiracy theorist stuff does not get pushed to the front. It's shunned by YouTube. But if it's Candace Owens saying it, interestingly enough, it makes it to the front of everybody's feed, makes it to the front of the algorithm. I'm going to scroll down a little further because I have, let's see, gotten way behind on comments. And did he tell them where to find it? There's the question. He said, go find his address. It's here. Facts aren't defamation, and neither are opinions. Well, if you are drawing a conclusion, you are making an inference to people saying that this is what it is, and it is not true, and there is no evidence of that. This guy neither had facts. He didn't have facts on his side. He didn't. If you say here's an actual anomaly that is, illegal or clear-cut evidence of wrongdoing, then that's one thing. Let's see. I spelled Alec Petikov wrong. Let's see. Same with others. Let's see. Yes. I've been tearing up those comments, but the XP system is totally rigged. The XP system? I don't know what that is. I will tell you that when it comes to YouTube, I'm starting to see it again. Interestingly enough, I'm starting to see it's not shadow banning, but it's the stopped. They stop your exposure. So when you look at impressions that start to hit your channel, and you say, okay, I'm getting, you could watch it in the first 24 hours, and you could say I've been exposed to X number of people. And that number continues to grow. You can go back and check it later. I've started having some of my videos reach a certain threshold and then stop, even though my click-through rate is high. It's interesting, and we're coming into an election year. I think it's just going to keep getting worse and worse and worse. So hopefully I don't get back into a rut. I think I've shown you guys the graph for my YouTube channel. I don't want to sit here and complain about my YouTube channel. You guys share the content. It helps me out, and be sure to engage with it as much as you possibly can. And you do down in the chat. But yeah, I love Scott Jinks. But yeah, the shadow banning of sorts and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, it's going to continue to be a thing. And sadly, things like channels like Rumble or platforms like Rumble, they just never took off. X is a good place to post your content, but it's heavily botted, unfortunately. And I've even reached out to X tech support, and they cannot figure out why. Nobody's gotten back to me, but I can't figure out why I can't live stream on X. I used to. I was able to. Then all of a sudden I couldn't. I even pay for the premium program so that I can, and I can't stream on X. I used to get, several hundred viewers on X, or I had in a couple of videos. It was definitely more consistent than it is over on YouTube. Let's see. Nobody wants to cut anything, so nothing will ever. There you go. Because great point. Nobody wants to cut anything in our budget. So going back to the budget talk, because it's like the military spending. I complain about it that Trump wants $1.5 trillion for military spending. We ain't got $1.5 trillion to pump into military spending. He's doing the numbers of, he's got the nerds in there balancing the numbers, saying this much coming in tariffs versus our tax revenue and economic growth and what, projections of what we're going to be earning. He's got the smart guys in there working the Excel spreadsheets. But there's fraud, waste, and abuse in nearly every government organization that has to be cut. We've got to trim a lot of the fat, and nobody wants to hear that the Defense Department can take a bit of a hit. There is some fraud, waste, and abuse, and to say there isn't is just entirely dishonest. If Trump ever came out and actually said that, I would be the first one to get on my channel and say, that is nonsense, because I've seen it myself. It's been a while since I've seen it, but it hasn't gotten better since I was, on active duty. It's only gotten worse, right? But yeah, nobody wants to, because it's jobs. When it comes to when it comes to military defense contractors, or it comes to military bases, or it comes to whatever. Look at Fort Knox, guys. When I was at Fort Knox, this is after I left active and went into the reserves. We were at Fort Knox, and they had barracks that they were condemning, and then they said, "Oh, wait, uncondemn." It was like condemn them, stop condemning them because we don't want to have to build new ones. Just take somebody in there with a bunch of bleach, scrub all the mold out of the place, and then put people back in the buildings. And we'll use them for another couple of years because we really want to build this nice, they were building another headquarters or something like that. Like crap like that goes on all the time, and it's infuriating. Build the new barracks, right? And I even had that my first duty station at Fort Polk, Louisiana. It was the same way. The bachelor officer quarters filled with black mold, nasty. They condemned all of it except for a couple of buildings because they didn't have time to build more, right? Yeah, nobody wants to cut anything, and they spend it poorly. And yeah, so anyway, January. Let's see. Yes, we need to find out who at YouTube is protecting her. Yeah. Lady Luck chat. She always wears tops that look like her shoulder pad. It's like character. I don't get that reference. Sorry, I don't get that reference. Oh, goodness. They know how evil and vicious. That's why he waited to say anything. Let's see. Some people are taking the same speech. Let's see. The video. Yeah, it was. But we had to go through it. Now, if somebody brings this up to you guys, you've got at least some ammunition that you can use on, arguing back, pushing the what I believe is the correct narrative. As he would say, that's just my opinion. Let's see. You just figure out, I think a lot of the defense countries should be examined more closely. Yeah. Yeah, okay. We were talking about platforms. Yes. Rumble has not got they have not got their act together. They could have been making so many more improvements. And some people are able to be successful on Rumble. When I started, interestingly enough, Rumble, I can't confirm this, but I feel like Rumble has their own type of algorithm. I was getting consistent traction and consistent viewership. And when I started making videos that were against Nick Fuentes, that were against Candace Owens, that were against those people, oddly enough, my viewership just plummeted. It stopped. It was really wild, really wild. Oh, yeah, there you go. Thanks, KC. Don't forget to like the video. I've come to the end of the comments, guys, and it is time to close this video out. I appreciate you. I appreciate all the new folks that have been joining this channel. Y'all are awesome. And if you're still here, please hit all the important buttons below. It helps this channel, helps me continue to make content, and we're going to grow to the point that, hey, this is going to be a great community. It is. We're already starting. We've got the foundation amongst all the wonderful people in the chat, the people that keep coming back each week. So God bless you guys. Have a wonderful Thursday evening. And if you're going to be part of this storm, or if you're look, I'm gonna play it one more time for the folks that are on before you go, before people start checking out. If you didn't see it at the start of the video, please go check out this guy's channel. He is doing some amazing content on this storm that's going through. He is a meteorologist. It is the best in-depth take I have seen on severe weather, and he does weather in general. Please go follow him. He's doing live streams on the regular. If you know people that are going to be in the storm, give this information to the people you know. This guy's information. Send it over to them so that they know he's doing great work, and it's way better than you're getting from your local news, way better than what I've ever gotten from the Weather Channel. So check it out. God bless, guys. Have a great night, and I will see you in the next video, God willing, tomorrow.